What I want to do is basically go through some of the highlights on how we actually do the projects. So how to use Google Earth Pro for the type of work we do. So here in front of you, you see Google Earth Pro. And again, this is download this to your PC. It works on tablets. There's a web version, but that's a little bit clunky. I strongly recommend if you're going to do any work that you actually download it to your PC. It's free. So it should be pretty straightforward. So what you see is obviously just the globe. That's the startup location. And there's a set of indicators. We'll be using some of those. What I'm going to do in stages is basically show you how you put a map in to locate, though most of you guys won't be doing that. And then also just show you how this works. But so first, let's actually see something here. So if you noticed over on the left-hand side here, what we've actually got is the different places in what we call layers. Geographic information systems consist of layers of data. And so what you have is the when you put new information in, it either goes into an existing layer, if you want to say a box, if you want to think of it that way. Or in the case of maps, the analogy would be like a clear plastic map. So you're putting more information on that. And the advantage of GIS systems is that you can turn these different layers on and off. So you can add layers, or you can take layers away. So if you notice, I have clicked on here. I've got the Land Court Awards for Lahaina. So this is work we've done. So what you actually see now is several things. One is it's zooming in. What you actually also see is Malo's testimony for this particular set of awards. So this is from the Mahele. This is from the Mahele book, volume 7. So what you actually see here, and this is the goal of the project, is to actually make this available, for all locations that we have information on. So what you see here is all this has been cut and pasted from a Word document into Google Earth. So let me turn this off. Now what we see is here's this location. So if you notice, as I move the cursor around, things bounce up and down as you're tapping on them. So we'll just turn this back on again. And this is what a GIS, geographic information system is. What you're seeing here is the current map. If you're interested, this particular map that is this particular image is from 8/10/23. So there's actually a lot of information that's included. So for example, right now where the cursor is, if you look down here at the side, you'll see it's actually telling you the longitude, latitude of this location. When you actually input locations, for example, where we have the Malo mark, what that actually is that's stored. And at some point, if you want to, you can actually convert that in Google to a database of locations, which you then could transfer to, for example, ESRI's ArcView or some other GIS system. So what you see here is a section of Lahaina. Now, what you also see here is, if you notice, some of these are in pink or some are purple. The purple ones are ones that we have testimony built into them now. The pink ones, we don't. So all we have is, in this particular situation with Luna Lilo's, award 277, is we have the award number, that it's Luna Lilo was one of the kings, and that it comes, this location in terms of where it's at is located from the Bishop map of 1882. We're fortunate in Lahaina and parts of Honolulu and a few other locations actually have these very detailed maps from the late 18th, early 19th, or late 19th, early 20th centuries, which included a lot of these. So if we go back up here to the last, let's turn this on. Here's another layer. So if I click on this, what's going to happen is now we see all the land court award boundaries. So these are all the lot boundaries for the different land court awards. So what we've done is we've taken these from the 1882 map. We've gone and actually traced them in. We've overtaken the 1882 map. And you go up here to basically an image, which you can actually pull up. In this case, we've got the map somewhere else. And then you actually put the map here. You have to use georeferencing in the sense, in our case, it's based on landscape features and also roads. So what you do is you move the image around till it fits on the existing real landscape or contemporary landscape. You then freeze it in place. Then what you do is you then, by hand, trace in all the boundaries of the lots that you see from the old map. And then you also put in the different location markers in the sense of whose lot it is, whose property it is. If you notice, we have all of Lahaina, of Central Lahaina. Again, this is all from one Bishop Museum, Bishop JB, I can't remember his name, was one of the bishops' family map. And then also down here, Olowalo side, I think from the Alexander map. Yeah, Alexander's 1906 map of Olowalo, which again included all these boundaries. Now, these are really useful for a bunch of reasons, not the least of which is if you notice when you're looking at Olowalo, is that this whole big chunk in the middle, there weren't any land court awards, or if they were, they weren't given. My suspicion would be that a lot of them just were not, they just weren't claimed. A lot of the population was shrinking and moving, but it says something sort of striking when you look at how scattered these lots are here versus how absolutely intense the lots are in Lahaina. You have to remember that's because it was the capital. At the time of the Mahele, the capital was just moving to Honolulu, but the capital had been Lahaina for basically 20 years. And so the monarchy, the high chiefs, the ruling family were pretty much all grounded in Lahaina still at that time. So not surprising, anyone who wanted anything was going to be around the king and the royal family and the entourage. So not surprising what you see now. If you notice, there's a huge gap in either direction. That's simply because that's where the Baldwin map ended. This is one of the huge problems we're facing right now is that we have land court awards all through this area, but we don't have, no one drew a map in the 19th, 20th centuries of the properties to the north or the south, or even Malka for that region. And so what we're sort of limited. There's no other maps that we can find, at least right now, for any of West Valley. And so that means that at some point, very quickly, we're going to have to move to the alternative source, which is a very poor source, which is the state land tax maps. And these are much smaller scale. They included a huge amount of information we don't need, but buried in them is actually, in many cases, the land court award, at least the numbers and the names from the 1850s. So what we're going to have to do now pretty much to expand the Lahaina project and also the Honolulu project is to start going into the land tax maps, which is going to be a very, very time and labor intensive to get that up. And then we can expand the population of people in Lahaina. If you notice, a bunch of these are pink, which means we don't have the testimony. In part, that's because the volumes haven't been done yet. In other parts, it's just because we haven't been able to find the testimony. A lot of the ones in Lahaina, especially I suspect the Malka ones, are probably in the native testimony volumes, which we haven't transcribed over. Just the difficulty of it's one thing to understand Hawaiian, it's a whole other thing to be able to read Hawaiian and basically interpret a script into transcribed text. And we don't have that skill set, to be honest, though we certainly would hope someone would provide it. So at this point, we're not transcribing over the native testimony volumes simply because the amount of time it would take would mean we never get anything else done. So that's one of those. In the future it will happen, but it's not happening right now. So what you see is from the foreign testimony volumes, as we're getting into the later ones, volume 15 to 16, are the later testimonies from the 1850s and such like that. We're going to be expanding this out a little bit more. So there's some Lahaina material there, but it's not as much. So basically what happens is you have two things. One is you have this, and then what you also then have is a Word document that's that particular volume of testimony. What you do, and the way we do it is basically you go through if you've got a new volume completed or a large chunk of a volume. And so that's because